I can find absolutely no evidence on any side that a square got broken that day. Either British or the German allies that were with them, or the Dutch. Over the last 10 years, myself and a couple of others have actually spent our times going on the archives trying to find new material. Between us all, we have actually brought over 500 new accounts of the Battle of Waterloo into the general domain. Now, when I tell you that the history of it for the last 190 years has been written on about 250 versions, we now have 750, you can imagine the amount of change that has brought to our understanding of the battle. Right, the French have often claimed that there were any of the squares broken, the British squares. I can find absolutely no evidence on any side that a square got broken that day. Either British or the German allies that were with them, or the Dutch. One nearly broke, and it's only, I have to say though, we only have the evidence of one man on this, which is Private Thomas Morris of the 73rd, who actually says the square next to me, so it wasn't his square, the 33rd, I made sure it wasn't his, the square next to him, which is joint 33rd and 69th, which has both had a bit of a battering, either at Quatre Bras or at Waterloo on that day. They were a joint square. He says they virtually broke during a charge, but resumed their position in square on our right and maintained it for the rest of the day. As in, it nearly broke, it swayed a bit, and they came back. That's the closest I can find that anybody says a square broke, although the French do claim up to 5 squares got broken that day. But I cannot find of anybody evidence that happened. Very simply, no. Uxbridge, after the Battle of Waterloo, extols his cavalry like everybody else, says everyone was brilliant, and you know, it all gets sort of whitewashed over with the fact that we've had a great victory. Nobody's looking for scapegoats if you've got a victory. Unlike Napoleon, who's looking for scapegoats. With regard to Wellington and sort of Uxbridge, what they're looking at is that, particularly on the actual battlefield on the day, clearly Uxbridge is unhappy but can't exactly have a go too much at the fact that the heavy cavalry go too far, because he got himself mixed up in it himself. So it's a case of he got himself mixed up, and he admits that. But what he was not happy with was, we have this view that when the squares and the great cavalry waves come up the ridge and sort of attack the squares, that the Allied cavalry wait behind the lines and come out and attack the cavalry waves as they come through the squares, and they're broken up a bit. The problem I've got with that is that I can find at least 15 to 20 witnesses now, I've got eyewitnesses, who says that on the day Uxbridge spends his life at that time in the battle complaining that his cavalry won't charge, and that they won't countercharge the cuirassiers, particularly. And what I think is happening is these light cavalry, if I'm honest about it, don't always fancy their chances. And he actually realises he's not getting the results from them that he wants. He spends, as I said, a long time saying to everyone, he actually, well, I know he's coming from the infantry, so he'll be a little bit careful the other way, but you know, he does spend his time, according to the infantry, saying, you know, my cavalry won't help us, you need to save the day for us. But as I say, it was the infantry reporting this, so it's a bit difficult to say. But it is, I think there's enough evidence to be clear now that Uxbridge wasn't happy with that aspect of the battle regarding his cavalry. They didn't countercharge anywhere near as much as he wanted, or as efficiently as he wanted. Later on, obviously, they do well at the end of the battle again. But even there, some of the charges perhaps are foolhardy, and some of them are against formed squares, which then lose large numbers, rather than actually breaking up the routing troops around them. They go for the formed square and try and smash it, which then ends up with them getting destroyed. 2 regiments I can think of at least did that. So, you know, there is a definite indication that, not to say that the Allied cavalry were useless on the day, but there are a number of occasions where they didn't act in the way he wanted. We all know that the 2 eagles were captured. But there's always been this thing in the background of 3 eagles. Now, where did that come from? The first statement from it is actually Wellington himself. He actually writes it in dispatch. He writes it when he's at Waterloo. He corrects his dispatch at Brussels. He doesn't take 3 out. The dispatch actually arrives in London, and the first report that goes in the print says 3 eagles, which is a bit strange when he's actually physically got 2. So you think, what's going on here? I think in the complete confusion after the battle, that reports of a 3rd eagle, which I believe was captured, got mixed up. And what happened, I believe, is that a gentleman by the name of a lieutenant, actually, Tathwell Baker Tathwell, what a name, eh? It's a bit like Sempronia Streatham, that's another one I love as well. These officers, but Tathwell actually is renowned to have actually attacked a regiment during his attack for the Horse Guards, and that he actually captured an eagle, but then unfortunately soon afterwards in the French counter charges he got captured and the eagle returned. Now there's lots of stories of soldiers capturing eagles, and at that stage I'd think, well, okay, that's probably the end of it. But where he attacked was around the area of La Haye-Sainte. And the little bit of evidence that makes me think there's a bit more to it is, let's be honest, French regiments are not renowned for admitting they lose their eagles, for many reasons. But the 55th Regiment of Line actually has in their regimental history, we lost our eagle and then we captured it back again. Now, put that together with Tathwell's claim, and you actually start to get something that sounds a little bit like the truth. Because you've got a regiment that's at La Haye-Sainte, and you've got Tathwell charging through there. And my general view at the moment is that Tathwell actually did, for a very short while, capture an eagle, and unfortunately, everybody then, in the confusion afterwards, thought 3 had gone back to Brussels, and only 2 went. And it was a bit late to change everything. If I'm honest about it, if you look at Clark's letters home, Clark to his wife extols what he does at the battle to the nth degree. He seriously loves himself. And as part of that, he does claim that he actually captured the eagle. Now, the private instead actually didn't claim it himself, but it was actually, he went back with it. And later on, the regiment actually had an inquiry. Now, it's not so well known this, but the regiment quietly had an inquiry the next year. And the inquiry came out that although they said Captain Clark had something to do with it, that in fact that it should go to the soldier as his claim. And in fact, funny enough, I have found a corresponding evidence of Lieutenant Gunning, who is actually in the regiment, who actually says it was a private soldier as well. That in fact, he doesn't even mention Clark in the actual claim for it at all. So there is no guarantee of who got it, but I would say that the evidence is now stacking up probably 75% towards the private and 25% towards Clark. And I think it's largely because Clark, as I said, was out there selling himself.